Hey, welcome back to the shop. Today we have this beautiful 1999 Road King on the lift for a revival, road ready. This come from one of our subscribers from West Virginia. Every time I say West Virginia, I want to sing that song. West Virginia, Mountain Mama. But anyway, I digress. So this hasn't been tagged at least in 7 years. 2017 is the date on that. And that's probably the last time this was on the road. So I don't know the condition of it. They bought it at an estate sale. And we're going to see if we can get it back on the road for the fine subscribers. What a joy they were to come up and trust me with this, and hope to get it back. I got another one of their personal bikes. It's another Road King. It's an Evo style. This is a 99, so it's the first year of the twin cam, the 88 cubic inch. Doesn't look like it's much had any work done to it, so we'll be checking a lot of things that the twin cams, the early models or first year editions especially, were kind of bad to go out. This is a fuel injection, so it might give us a little bit of trouble, but overall, it looks like it's in pretty good condition. So let's take a walk around this and see what we can see. It's the first time I've actually kind of laid my peepers on it really tightly. Just getting it on the lift, and let's see what we can find out. See what the miles are on it, and looks like it's going to be a good bike for them. Just some things we need to check. So if you bought you a bike and it's been sitting a long time, or you don't know the condition of it, this will be a good video for you to just kind of see what procedures do we need to go through just to check things. Our most important things are going to be our motor and our transmission, and then all the other things that you might need, like brakes and things like that, electronics and all that. But these are pretty solid bikes. Back before Harley started adding all the doodads and whatnots and bells and whistles. And welcome back to Butler Customs Motorcycle Shop. So let's take a gander at this beauty. Been sitting a while, you can kind of tell. And it's got this tag on it. I don't know what this tag is. A trailer motorcycle, West Virginia State Police certificate of inspection. I mean, I'm here in Tennessee. We don't have things like this. 2011, I guess, in June was the last time this had a vehicle inspection. We don't have vehicle inspections here. Here in Tennessee, they're like, does it run? Inspected. So we do want to look at, oh, okay. That looks like fuel coming out of the horn. That's a first. This has these, it's fuel injection, but it's a very early model of fuel injection for Harleys. And they have the two petcock doodabby adapter things. And this looks like this is definitely leaking here. And whoo, that is some old fuel. So we'll definitely have to address these. What we're going to do today is, can we get this thing running, sounding good, check everything wheel to wheel, make sure that it's healthy, then make a list of what we need to replace. Just things, you know, where it's been sitting a long time. This date on this inspection plate here is 2011. But back here on the plate itself, it's got a 2017, but it had a sticker over it that I guess had been peeled off. So the white sticker was over top of that. So like I said, they bought it at an estate sale. I don't know how much they paid for it, but it looks like a pretty good bike. The rear shocks have been, I I don't know if you call them an upgrade. They are adjustable shocks, they're spring shocks. So that's been changed. But the condition and health of the motor on the outside looks pretty good. I'm suspecting the fuel injection is going to give us some trouble. That's the early model of the twin cams. And then we do have a little bit of flaking up here on the gas, on the cover here, but not too bad. As far as paint, looks in good condition. It came to me without the bags, so that's good. We don't have to worry about bags and taking them off and storing them and them getting banged up or scratched up. So this is actually was made and produced, I don't know if you can see that, but in 07 of 98. But the month it was produced would make it a 99. So this is the first year of the twin cam. If it was a true 98, it would have the Evo in it, I believe I'm speaking correctly. But the front end looks good. The chrome all looks good. It's just been setting a minute. I would suspect it's dead as a doornail. But let's see. What? What? What's our mileage? 31,000. Yep, 31,000 on the miles. And we have battery. Wonder if they put a new battery in it. But ooh, I can smell that fuel. The pump is working. I heard it, so that's great news. Where do we start and what do we do? Well, we don't want to go cranking on this thing, that's for sure. Let's start with the motor. And let's just do an overall kind of inspection of it. We'll start up here at the front. We'll look at the brake pads. Of course, we'll take those off and inspect those. Those look good. We'll inspect the fluid as well. The lights seem to work. We'll check all the switches and things for that. We'll pull the plugs and look down with a bore scope inside. We'll spray a little bit of fluid in there just so if we do turn the motor over by hand or by the tire, it's not dry. We'll have a little bit of fluid in there. We'll check the shift on everything once the wheels are up. Of course, we'll change all the fluids and all that. I'll probably pull the derby cover off or maybe even the primary cover just to inspect inside there. I don't think this is a dummy cover. I think it's still got that 9/16 adjustable lock nut where the tensioner is adjustable, so we can kind of check the chain and stuff like that. Overall, things look pretty good. The belt looks pretty good. Of course, we'll roll it around and inspect all the teeth on the belt as well. The pipes are not stock. They've been upgraded. Look to be. We'll check the fluids and everything. Here's the oil right here. Okay. Smells good and looks good. Feels good. So it's had a fresh oil change. Might not be as in bad a shape or setting as we had thought. The fuel is definitely bad in that. And brake pads up here look pretty good. Of course, we'll inspect them better. Now, you might notice when you pick up a bike, it's been sitting a while, that your front rotors look good and clean, while your rear rotor looks kind of just surface rust, really. There's no pitting on that. Why is that? Well, it's because when you move a bike around in the garage or something to get out of the way, you'll use your front brakes. You will never use your back brakes. And that's kind of what has seemed to happen here. So nothing alarming. Of course, we'll check all these pads. We will flush the brake fluid out. I do want to check the transmission fluid. Usually they're good, and it's not been leaking anything in the shop, so that's good. Hopefully the starter's in good shape as well. Seems like it's got a hot battery in it. Check all the fuses and things if we run into any, turn signals not working or rear brakes not working or things like that. But I think this is going to be pretty healthy. So we're just going to go through some checks. Let me check that transmission fluid. And then we'll start rotating the tire, seeing if we got to go through seeing if it'll go through all the gears. Because we got to get it in the highest gear, take the plugs out to kind of rotate the motor over and see how it's going to do. All right, I did pull the dipstick out on the transmission, and it looks really nice, really clean, up to the full level. Not a speck on it, not dirty. So this is really good. Just use a 3/8 Allen head on that. Pull that out. So now we're ready to raise this rear tire up, and we can just see how we go through all the gears on it. All right, let's start with getting these plugs out here. Plug wires look okay. Don't see any bad corrosion on them. 5/8 will zip these out right here. Plugs look fairly in newer condition. They're champions. Now, this will tell us a lot about the condition of the motor, and it is a little black. A little black. Some carbon buildup there, which tells me that it is not firing, not getting a lot of spark there. See how these rears look, and the same thing. That's a little wet on there, but again, I don't know the last time this thing was started. We'll have to see. That does look a little wetter than the front there, but definitely a spark. So on your plugs, if you have a plug that's kind of like white, almost ashy white, that's an indicator you don't have a lot of fuel going there. You got spark, but you don't have the fuel. If it's black and sooty, like this front one, that means you have fuel, but your spark, it might be off on the timing, or it might not be sparking enough to burn off everything. You want to have a plug that's a little bit light brownish. That's running perfect. And these are not. Now, if you have wet, dark, then you have oil getting into your combustion chamber, and that's not good. Now, we will be running a bore scope in here and looking around. I'll be spraying a little bit of PB Blast in there just so things aren't dry. All right, now our rear tire is up, and ooh, there's a lot of slop in this right here. There's no slop in that, but there is a lot right there in that. That's not good. So we'll have to look at this spline. Hopefully we don't have to take this off. Pulling that inner primary out, hopefully not. This has a little bit of play in it as well. And I'm hoping this back is okay. So, and this is setting pretty low here. A lot of slop, but we're in neutral now. I'm gonna just kind of get behind you here, spin the wheel. I'm gonna probably have to move you up a little bit. Make sure you're still in frame. There we go. I'm going to just kind of move this belt pulley back here. There's first. That feels good. Back into neutral. Second feels good. Third feels good. Fourth feels good. And there's fifth. All right, so all the gears feel good. They sounded good. There's not a lot of slop in them. So hopefully our transmission's healthy. Let's run a scope in here and see what we got inside these cylinders. Well, that's no good. My screen has bit the dust. I'll take care of this. I've never dropped it. Well, I think I dropped it once, but I can't see anything on that screen. The screen's just bad. Let's just do it the old school way. Shine us a flashlight down in there and see what we can see. It's not going to do us much good though. A lot of carbon buildup, what I can tell. Just spray a little bit in there, a little bit in there. Do a little more, a little more. Now let's spin that rear wheel. Make sure she's not locked up, which I don't suspect she is. Another thing about that PB Blast as you're doing this is you can hear it. That lets you know your rings are still got good compression on them. Hear that? I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's hissing. That's good. All right, so it's spinning over really normal and really good. Let me pull this primary inspection plate off, and we can look in there and kind of make sure our chain's tight and we're going to get a good bump off. All right, we're going to pull this cover off here, a T27. And to the subscribers that sent me the shop fan, ceiling fan, thank you so much. On a day like today, it is so nice. And I've got a ceiling on the way, believe it or not. Getting big time here. Ooh, those haven't been out in a minute. But that's good to see. It had Loctite on it. That's really good. I want to leave that bird in there and take this bottom one out. And our last one here, we'll hold the plate. There we go. There we are. We do have fluid down in there. The fluid looks new. And the chain, little sloppy. Not too bad, but I do, while I'm right here, I do want to go ahead and tighten it. And the gasket doesn't look that bad or that old. I like to see that Loctite in there. That's good to see. Of course, we'll be changing all this, gaskets and fluids and all that, because I just don't know. I don't know how long it's been in there. But, you know, oil doesn't go bad just from setting. And that looks awfully clean. And it's not been leaking anything. But I do want to tighten this chain up. Let's take care of that. We're going to need a that, and we're going to need a that. 9/16, and we're going to loosen this. Oh, that was good. That was good and tight and torqued. Very good. Going to loosen it till it drops, and then we're going to pull it up with a little bit of tension. Not too crazy. But let's get it to hold, and then we'll check. And actually, while we got it dropped down, I can see the chain in here. I can check my shoe. The shoe looks good. Remember, it's only got 31,000 on it. But if you know anything about twin cams, you know what the issues are. Those chain tensioners on the oil pump side, on the cam plate side. Oh yeah, much better. There we go. They're the ones to go out, and they usually go out around 40,000, 50,000 miles. So to be on the safe side, we will be pulling that cam plate, and we will be checking out those tensioners because they are just bad, especially if they're old. This is a 98 or 99, but made in 98. So that's what, I don't know, do the math. That's a lot. And those tensioners, they get brittle. And they're not, the stock ones weren't made well. They've got upgraded ones now you can throw in there, and you don't have to worry or have a headache about always worrying about your bike. You know, when I ride my bike, and I ride a 74-year-old bike, I don't want to ride and constantly worry, you know. Now we will be torquing these and blue Loctiting these back, but I'm going to have to pull this off again anyway. So right now I just want to put it on so we don't have any oil shooting out in our teefuses. So when I ride, I like to have, I like to enjoy the ride, not constantly be worrying about something. So if we change those tensioners, or at least inspect them, then we know. And I might, while I'm in there, one of those while you're in there things, I might go ahead and just upgrade those tensioners to that better material tensioners. I think it's some kind of poly thing now, the better ones. And this is kind of gets like a brittle plastic, the stock ones. That way we can replace the oil pump ring, we can inspect the cams, we can do all that good stuff. All right, so that's back together. Our cylinders, best we can tell, look good. The plugs are out, transmission's up in 5th gear. I'm going to put it back down in neutral now. Our primary fluid's good, our chain's now tightened. The transmission fluid's good. I think we're ready just for a test crank, and that'll tell us really the condition of those cam tensioners over there. If we hear a lot of racket, we're going to stop it immediately. All right, got it back in neutral. All the fluids are checked. The plugs are out, so I got you backed up so you don't get any PB blast in your eye. But while we're doing here, we're making sure it cranks, the starter's good, and we're just listening. We're listening for any kind of sound that's not right in this twin cam. So I'll switch the ignition on. It's priming up good. Let's see. Wow, this sounds really healthy. I didn't hear any rattling, clinking, clanging. Did you see anything shoot out? I didn't see much shoot out. I see this leaking pretty bad. That might have been why it was parked, because these can be a bear to replace. And quite costly as well. Let me see if I got any of these Champions RA8HCs laying around. I think I do. But let's just check, see if this has a spark to it. I don't want it around that fuel. Whoo! Doggies. If these have a little bit of a spark to them, we'll be good with that. Yeah, we got spark there. Yes, okay, we have spark. Save on our battery. Alright, so far this is going good. Going real good. Snap that on. You want to hear a good snap when you put those plug wires on. There we go. And that's already dripping out of there. I guess that's where the gas was dripping down the horn and coming out here. The gas, probably bad, but let's see what it does. I mean, we're going to have to clean things out anyway. Okay, she's not even burping off for us. So let's pull the air breather, the air filter off. Look up in that injection throttle body. See if we can spray some carb cleaner up in there. At least get her to kind of burp off on us. I suspect that gas is so bad, those injectors have sat, they're just clogged up. But the motor sounds good. I mean, it sounds healthy while it's cranking. Right, we got a 5/16 here on our cover. Woo! That was not even tight. Has somebody been monkeying with this, trying to get it to fire? Yeah. Our air breather looks pretty good. And this is I'm using a T25, but it might be a T27 actually. No, T25. And it's actually good. We kind of cranked on it a little bit with the plugs out, just kind of get that oil flowing like it should. Get up on those valve springs and the heads and where it should be. There we go. Don't look too bad. There's our throttle. Let me get a light in here for us. Alright, I'm going to open up the throttle and stick this extension in there and have a gander. That don't look bad. Better than I thought it would look. Now, it might be where that fuel line's leaking, that it's just not getting pressure that it needs to push those through those injectors. That could be the whole issue, but let's just kind of spray it out here a little bit. Yeah, not bad at all, guys. I've seen 10 times worse and running fine. But now that that's out, the throttle is operating correctly. See if that makes it kind of bark off on us. Yep, okay. So it is a fuel issue and it sounded pretty good. That was my lift kind of popping and cracking. Give it a couple more little shots there. So we're going to have a fuel issue. And if you look up in here, there's your injectors, those red things there. We'll need to pull out and clean. So we're going to be pulling this tank and then getting into this throttle body. There's a wasp up in there hanging out. Hello, how are you? All the connectors look connected to the injectors. I think it's just clogged up and gummed up, which we can clean out, and that'll be good. Be good to show you how to clean those injectors out, old school way. There is a little cap here that I can take off and spray some carb clean in that to see if that helps. But I imagine our injectors are just simply clogged up from setting. So you've got a little nipple here on top of this fuel injection that stays covered up, and then you can actually put your little nozzle down in there. And I do want to open this up, let that clean out. Hold my rag down here, stick my nipple down in there and just give that a good clean. All right, doesn't look too bad there. Throttle response is really nice and smooth, so nothing gummed up there. Now let's try another start. All right, don't want to do any more starting on it than that. I would like to at least hear this run for a minute or two, just warm things up. Make sure there's no exhaust leaks or tapping, or especially down here in this cam chest. But right now, our plan is to get it running. So let's pull the tank. The fuel is going to be nasty, nasty, nasty. And I don't see any leaks around the gaskets, the cover gaskets, around the heads, around the base gaskets, around the rocker box covers or the push rod tube covers. I don't see any leaks on this bike at all. It looks like it's been well kept. So that's good. That'll help us out. But we have an issue with no fuel getting in there. And it didn't really run long enough to check the plugs to see if they've changed any. But I assume with the spark that we saw, it should run. So it's going to be a fuel issue. I could change with new plugs and run and grab those real quick, but I don't think that's going to help us. I think it's a fuel issue, especially with that leaking over there. Might not just be getting enough pressure to go through those injectors. Okay, I did find some good kind of used plugs. I don't think that's going to make a difference, but let's try it out. Nah. Okay. Well, let's start digging into the fuel system. Now, I already got the center console off, just a couple bolts. I left it hooked up, I left the battery hooked up. I got the tank raised up and a ratchet kind of stuck underneath the tank. I undid all the bolts on the tank. But before I pull this tank off, and yes, by the way, I did check, it has fuel in it, and I even added some fresh fuel. I wanted to make sure it was nothing electrical. From the wiring diagram on this model, the power that runs to your both injectors runs also to feed the coil and to feed the pump, your fuel pump. So if you have power to the fuel pump, you have power to the coil, and we know that because the coil is sparking and the fuel pump turns on with the key on, then it's a good guess that we do have power to the injector plugs. And then the negative runs over to the ECM, and that tells it, of course, by the crank sensor and cam position sensor, tells it when to ground out to let the injectors work. So I don't think it's a power feed to the injectors. It could be a clogged fuel filter, which is in here. So I think before I pull the tank and do all that jazz, how about we just open this up, because more than likely, as long as this fuel's been sitting in here, I'm going to pull that injector anyway. And let me just go ahead and lay all that to the side. Injector. I'm going to pull that fuel filter out anyway. Now there's two fuel filters inside here. There's one external fuel filter, and then there's one inline fuel filter right before the pump. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to try to save on this gasket best I can. Sometimes they can be hard to find. And this one looks like it's in pretty good shape. I've not seen up underneath it. But I'm just going to pull these off, and then we'll get in there and kind of see the condition. It might have a split line. We can kind of hook up the pump back up and turn the switch back on and just kind of see if any bubbles are coming up from the line, if it's sucking in air. It's not going to have enough pressure, I don't think, to pressurize the fuel lines. And I think that's, by my uneducated guess, I think that's probably what's going on. I don't think our injectors are the issue. But they might be. But before I get into all that, I'd rather check this first, because more than likely we are going to be replacing this filter anyways. I checked all the fuses. Everything looks good. Everything was correct. No monkeying has been done to the wiring. Everything is in its factory harness. This is pretty much, best I can see, pretty much stock, besides the exhaust. The exhaust looks aftermarket, but I can't find any branding on it. I've never seen a Harley exhaust with those rounded tips like that, but maybe on this model they did have them. I also ran the code check on this. There was no codes on the bike, so that's good. So I don't think it's anything electrical. I think our issue is just going to be in a clog, probably in the fuel filter. And if you have a fuel injected Harley, you need to periodically change the fuel filter. I would say, especially the way gas is today, I'd change it at least every 10,000 miles. I don't know, you might could go 15,000. But what you'll find if you haven't changed it in a while is it's going to be nasty. All right, this is of course very corroded, but that's kind of expected. We'll take that off there. And now we got a gander down in here. And let me get a light and put these somewhere safe. I'll get you in there where you can see a little bit too of what might be going on. And then what we can do is we can hook power right to this, run a pigtail off the battery, 12 volt, and then we can watch and see what our fuel is actually doing, what the pump's doing, what the lines are doing. But this looks to be original, and the fuel sock looks pretty good actually. But there is an inline filter that might, could give us problems down the road. None of the hoses have been replaced. They've all got the factory clamps on them. The leveler looks good. It's not corroded too bad. And these are hard lines running up. Fuel in here looks pretty decent. Doesn't look like it's got much water or corrosion in it. The gas doesn't, it smells bad, but doesn't look that bad. What I'm looking at is right down where those hard lines. You got two lines that come off of this older model EFI fuel injection, electronic fuel injection. One's the line that feeds to the pump, or the pump pulls up. The other line, or the pump pushes out, You got two lines. One line, the pump pushes fuel out. The other line is a return line. The unused fuel returns back to the tank. So there's the line that goes to the pump. And I think I just want to hook it up and watch it and make sure I don't see anything squirting anywhere, because those lines are a beast to get off, those hard lines. So hopefully it's nothing like that. Okay, I think I can hook this up here. And I think I can hook this up here. I think I can get my switch up here. All right, there's my filter. It doesn't look too bad. All right, I should be able to operate this now. Okay, I hear it gurgling. I hear it. Ooh, it's coming out bad here now. Oh my goodness. And that's going to be the line that's leaking bad that runs up to the pump. It's just pouring out this side here now. And that's going to be our issue. But the filter has been replaced, so that's good. Looks like a good filter. So I think our problem is going to be in this line here, this valve. It looks like the O-ring has come off of it. All right, so I did a little bit of studying. As suspected, these are not serviceable. If it was just leaking from up here, that's fine. But fuel goes down in this hole here, and it's actually leaking out of here, actually just squirting out. And that's not going to give enough pressure to go into those injectors. So this is going to hold us up. Can a man figure something out? Yeah, you could probably cut this off and make a fitting, and yeah, maybe. But when I got to looking at it, it's leaking up around this crimp as well. So you got the long line here, that's your pump that pumps out. We know the pump's working, we know a filter's not clogged up, everything inside the tank looks good. Because when you hit the key, gas just shoots out of here. Ask me how I know. So this is a return and for the fuel not used, and nothing's returning back into that, but it comes in a kit. So you got a short line for your return, a long line for your out to the injectors. Even if we had bad injectors, it's not going to run without proper fuel delivery. So we got to address this first. Okay, so as far as getting it running, we're shut down because we got to order those new fuel lines. Thankfully, they're still made aftermarket, and they're nice and chrome and shiny. It's going to be a good upgrade. And they're like, I think 160, 170 bucks times shipping and tax and all that. So not terribly too bad. I kind of like those old style EFI deliveries because there's not a check valve that's got two separate O-rings you got to get up in there. But when things like that happen, you've got to replace the line. It's not serviceable. That's the only bad thing. So I don't think anything's going on in the tank. I'm just going to set this back on the tank, put a couple bolts in, a couple screws in, just so that nothing gets in the tank. Tank doesn't look too bad, not too rusty. So had a fuel filter, been replaced. But once we fix this leak and get good pressure, then we'll know if there's any pressure leaking on the inside. We're really not going to be able to tell until we fix that line. So now what we can do is get this cam cover off and see what our tensioners look like while we're waiting on the lines to come in. I'll order the lines, I'll get them in. I'm going to go ahead and order brake shoes, both 2 sets for the front, 1 for the rear. The belt looks good. As I was turning the motor over and going through all the gears, it looked okay. The motor sounds good, but let's just go ahead and check those cam tensioners, cam chain. I want to check both on the front ones and the rear as well. I've never seen them wear differently. Usually if the front ones are bad, the rear ones are just as bad. So if the front ones look good, I don't know if we need to pull the actual pump out, the oil pump and all that, but we might need to anyway, just to double check. But let's at least pull that cover off and look at that front chain tensioner shoe, see what it looks like. I think our injectors are going to be fine. I just don't think there's enough fuel pressure getting in there for the injectors to actually spray. I don't know, but we can't mess with the injectors till we get that off. But let's do this. What we can do, I just thought of this. Let's go ahead and pull the tank off because we just got to take that other line off, disconnect the fuel level that's up here, gauge under the tank, get the cross section off and just go ahead and pull the tank off. Then we can go ahead and just kind of test our injectors, see if they're injecting. Then we'll know for sure our issue is just in that valve, just not getting enough pressure into the injectors. So let's do that. That's good before we get into the cam stuff. Now, I think this tank's been off before. It has. So we'll go ahead and take this line off here. We'll go ahead and disconnect wherever you disconnect that. Where do you disconnect that? How do you disconnect? There we go. Take our other fuel line off, which is surprisingly an 18 millimeter, and that's very surprising. All right, the O-ring on that actually looks good. And this fitting here feels a whole lot tighter than this fitting. So I'm thinking that was our issue. Now we should be good once I get this line off to go ahead now and yank his tank up so it doesn't leak too bad on us. There we go. Get it up and off. Now that tank is off, there's a dirt dauber nest. Now we can see our injector wires there, and we can test those, make sure it's getting signal into both wires. You want to be careful with these connectors and don't start monkeying with them too much. And this heat that gets created here, it's a bad plastic to use for these. They can get very, very brittle. They can get on there really, really tight. I may go ahead and take off this cross member just so we've kind of got a little bit more room. It's a little metal wire you have to push in. You've got to try to wiggle that thing off, and you got to be very careful. Push that in there. There we go. All right, that injector's out, the connector for it. And then you've got a yellow-green wire on this model, on this wiring harness, that is the same on the other as well. And when we have power to the coil and power to the fuel pump, we should have power to this. So let me check that. And it should be a constant power. We get a clip over here on our negative. And then we'll set it to volts, to DC. I'll check our connection. 11.97. And then let's see, with the key on, if we have anything here. Yep, 11.6. So that injector is putting out fine, well, to power to it. So I don't think it's going to be an issue with the injectors. And to tell you the truth, I'm just not going to monkey with them anymore until we get that fuel line on, because they're just so brittle. I don't want to get into replacing injectors if there was no need to in the first place. These gas lines on the throttle body have little snap rings that hold them on. I know it's weird, but that's what it has. Okay, so I'm going to have to take this motor mount off over here and off this mount on this side to get that to work. But I think we can reach them from right there. That's cool. All right, 9/16 nut and a 5/16 Allen head on this side. And then the other should be a 9/16 as well on that. 9/16 on that with our horn negative. Been leaking for a while. You can see how rusty this bolt is here. But with this out of the way, it should give us the room we need to get in there and get those clips off of our fuel lines. Go ahead and take our fuel lines off. And I may have to take this zip tie off as well. There we go. Now we got a lot more room for activities now. Stick these back in for now. Okay, now we have access. That's our temp sensor there. We'll leave that alone. And then there's the clip that we need to take off to get this out. So help me remember, the return line, the short line, goes right here, shortest. The long line goes all the way back there and out here. There we go. And I want to turn that around. Turn around every now and then. Just turn around for me. There you go. There we go. Got it. Might replace those anyway. Now this should come up, right? Is that how that works? I would think so. We get some prying action going. I sure don't want to break nothing. There. Okay, so there's a O-ring and an O-ring there we'll probably need to replace. And then there's the fitting. Now remember, there's a big open end and then there's a small end with a little lip. So the little lip goes up and the big flush part goes down. All right, so that's out. Now I just got to go do the other side. Maybe now I can get in there with these. No, that ain't going to work. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to replace these rings, snap rings. Now I should be able to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. And this is our culprit here. The new ones are chrome, they're braided. So I don't know how that's going to hold up, but that's what we got. There's really, Harley don't make these anymore. And then we'll make sure to get an O-ring kit as well. And it should come with new ones up here too. So that'll be good. And hopefully new snap rings, but not a big deal on the snap rings. So that's going to be all on that. Now let's move over and work on the cam chain tensioner and just inspect that and check that out. Now on the cam chain tensioner, it's under here. There's two of them. There's one in front of the oil pump. There's one behind. To get this off, quite a lot of things have to come off. We've got to remove the floorboard. We've got to remove the pipe. And this is a kind of 2-in-1 thing on this side. So we'll have to get some new exhaust gaskets. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to put some new ones on anyway. But I do want to check this. I don't want to get this bike road ready and him put 5,000 miles on it, and then the cam chain tensioners go out, when it's something I could have checked while it was here. Because these are known to fail, let's just go ahead and, you know, jump in it, check it out, and see what happens. So I'm going to take the floorboard off. I'm going to get this exhaust off, which is all this chrome. Covers come off. The bracket bolt here comes off. The mufflers come off. You can figure all that out. I won't waste your time with that. So next time you see me back, we'll be ready to take this cam cover off. Alright, I got our pipes off. I got our floorboard loosened up enough to move out of the way to get the pipe up. We want to move all of our tools and whatnots because it is going to leak and make a mess. And now we are ready to start taking this cam cover off here. And now this is the first year of the twin cam, so there is a cam sensor in here, but it's not like the Evo, where when you take this plate off, you have to worry about the tension on your cams. Because these have two cams, not just a single cam, and they are held up in place by the oil pump assembly. But there will be a sensor inside here, so we can't take the cover completely away from the bike, but we can get it off enough to inspect the cam chain tensioner. So of course, if you were working on an Evo, you would not, oh sorry, didn't mean to hit you in the head. You would not do this until you loosened up your push rods and let all the pressure off inside here. But with this, we don't have to worry about that. But there is a cam sensor in here behind that plate there. But we should not have to mess with that. Let's pull our bolts out here. There we go. We'll get a little soft mallet. We'll give it a little love tap. Now we can set this kind of over to the side. This is your, I don't know if you can see that or not. Well, you probably can't. But this is your tensioner or your cam sensor here for the timing. That runs in this little groove right here. Now we can look at our tensioners. And let me get some pliers here. I'm just going to take the tension off of this chain here, move it back, and look at that. Woo-wee! We caught that in time. All right. So we will be replacing these. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's starting to come apart, especially down here at the bottom. Let me get a little pick in there that'll hold this tensioner back, and then I can show you. There we go, that'll hold that back for us, and it's bright orange handled and no chance of leaving that in. Now, let me get you up here. Okay, so there you can see it's starting to pit and disintegrate and come apart. Probably about maybe 6,000–7,000 miles later, that would have just fallen apart. So there's one back behind this oil plate. So we are going to have to replace these tensioners, and I'm so glad we checked that. So now our parts list keeps growing, and let's go ahead now, since we've got all this off up here, we know what we got to order up there. Let's go ahead and walk around the bike and make sure we don't miss anything we need to order that we can't just, you know, run to Harley and get. Which, you know, on this bike should be about everything we have to order instead of running out to get something. I did notice this, but I think it's just setting, maybe it's set out in the rain or something, not sure. But let's go ahead and make us a part list. Okay, our parts list. 1999 Road King EFI cam chain tensioners, cam gasket. We're going to get the kit that comes with the new O-rings that goes behind the pump and all that jazz. We are going to do tires and tubes. We are going to do brake pads all the way around. We are going to do fuel lines. I think the brake rotor will clean up. It doesn't look like anything electrical's wrong. All the switches seem to work. All the fuses were good. Nobody's monkeyed with the wiring. We're going to do oil filter and of course oil change. We're going to do plugs. Okay, anything else? Oh, exhaust gaskets. Exhaust gaskets. I don't think there was anything else that I saw that I'm like, oh, I need to replace that. Everything seemed pretty much stock and together. Fork seals don't seem to be leaking. The grips are good. Oh, I need a left mirror. It is busted. You can see there. I'll zoom in for you when I edit. Got a lot to order. Let's go ahead and get that ordered in, and then we can go ahead and start taking off that cam. And if you've ever needed to do cam chain tensioners and don't know how, this is going to be a great video for you. I do want to go ahead and take this out till we get our parts in. Let the slack off of this. Now when you get a new tensioner, it'll, get the whole kit and caboodle, the new spring and all. And that way you just replace the whole thing. All right. Well, we got a list of about 10, 12 things to order. And that's about as far as we can go on this. Hopefully we can put everything back together and it'll run, and it'll run good. So we're going to do a lot of things coming up in the next video, but thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And tell your mama now I said hi.